Professor Nadia Ellison's hands trembled as Sheriff Vance Reilly slammed her against the hood of her Lexus. His breath reeked of coffee and contempt. "You people think you can park wherever you want." The words cut through the humid Georgia afternoon like a blade. This is one of those black stories that shouldn't happen in 2025. Yet here we are. Real-life stories don't always follow the script we want them to. In the historic district of Magnolia Springs, Nadia had parked 18 feet from a fire hydrant. The legal minimum was 15 feet. She had measured. She always measured. Sheriff Reilly kicked her briefcase across the pavement. Columbia law letterhead scattered like leaves. He didn't even glance down. "I don't care what fancy papers you got." Have you ever been punished for a crime you didn't commit while the evidence of your innocence lay scattered at your feet? Nadia reached into her car with deliberate slowness. Every movement calculated, every breath controlled. She produced a yellow tape measure from her glove compartment. "Sheriff, would you measure with me?" Reilly's face reddened. He was in his mid-50s with 28 years on the force and 3 complaints dismissed in the past year alone. His badge caught the afternoon sun. "I don't need to measure nothing. I know a violation when I see one." Nadia extended the tape measure anyway. From her rear tire to the hydrant, 18 feet 3 inches beyond that. She held it taut so Reilly could see, so the growing crowd could see, so the phones recording from the sidewalk could see. She pulled out her phone with her free hand, scrolled to the city ordinance, and turned the screen toward Reilly. Section 19304B, 15 feet minimum. Reilly's jaw clenched. His partner, Deputy Kai Nakamura, shifted his weight behind him. Kai was younger, maybe 30, and his hand moved to his own phone. He checked something. His expression changed. "You calling me a liar?" Reilly stepped closer. "That's obstruction." "I'm not calling you anything. The tape measure is calling you mistaken." The words hung in the air. Too calm. Too precise. Reilly's hand moved to his radio. "Smart mouth's going to get you more than a ticket, sweetheart." He called for backup, his voice carrying across the street. "Hostile. Non-compliant." Those words. Nadia had heard them in case files, in depositions, in courtrooms where officers explained why they escalated force. The language was a tell, a red flag, a preview. "I've shown you compliance," Nadia said. "I've shown you the law. What I haven't shown you is fear." Reilly heard it as a threat, or maybe he chose to hear it that way. His hand was already reaching for his handcuffs. "You're under arrest, threatening an officer." The cuffs went on. Nadia didn't resist. She let her wrists come together behind her back, let the metal bite into her skin. She knew what resistance looked like on a police report. She knew what juries believed. The crowd grew. 15 people, 20 mostly white retirees with shopping bags from the boutiques that lined Main Street. One woman, silver hair and pearls, leaned toward Nadia. "Just do what he says, honey. Don't make it worse." From across the street, James Torres unlocked his phone. He was 63. Owned the antique store on the corner, and he'd lived in Magnolia Springs his entire life. He'd seen this before. Different faces, same script. He started a live stream. "Y'all seeing this?" Nadia's briefcase lay open on the sidewalk, its contents visible to anyone who cared to look. A Columbia Law School faculty ID that wouldn't expire until 2026. A Georgia Bar Association card, member since 2009. An invitation to the governor's task force on criminal justice reform. Embossed letterhead. A business card had landed face up near Reilly's boot. Nadia Ellison, J.D., Professor of Constitutional Law. Reilly saw none of it, or he saw it and dismissed it. The distinction didn't matter. He was committed now. Deputy Nakamura bent down, picked up some of the papers. His eyes moved across the governor's letterhead. He straightened slowly. "Vance, maybe you should remember who's in charge." They placed Nadia in the back of the squad car. She sat perfectly still, hands cuffed, back straight, eyes forward. Through the window, she watched Reilly address the crowd. "Show's over. This is what happens when people don't respect law enforcement." James kept filming. His viewer count climbed. 47 people watching. 93. 126. "Ain't no show, Sheriff. This is a documentary." Nadia's phone buzzed in the front seat where Reilly had placed it. The screen lit up with each incoming call. Contact names scrolled past. Dean Robertson, Senator Hayes, Professor Williams. Each notification a clue Reilly would never see. Her car registration was visible through the window, leased through Columbia University Faculty Services, New York plates, a bumper sticker partially obscured by Reilly's leg. CLS alumni leading voices in justice. She wore a Cartier tank watch. Subtle wealth, the kind that doesn't announce itself but never lies about its origins. Her shoes were Ferragamo. Her briefcase was Toomey. None of it mattered to Reilly, or all of it mattered in exactly the wrong way. The squad car pulled away from the curb. Nadia watched the historic district recede through the rear window. The boutiques, the coffee shops, the people who'd watched her get arrested for a crime that never happened. She'd been in Magnolia Springs only minutes. She'd come to meet a colleague at the university satellite campus. She'd parked legally. She'd followed every rule. And now she was in handcuffs. This is how it happens, she thought. This is how the system works. When you're on the wrong side of it. When your credentials don't matter. When your education doesn't protect you. When the color of your skin is the only evidence that counts. She'd taught this constitutional law, Fourth Amendment protections, probable cause, qualified immunity. She'd written articles about it, testified before legislative committees, trained judges, and now she was living it. The irony wasn't lost on her. Neither was the opportunity, because Nadia Ellison didn't just teach constitutional law, she practiced it, she litigated it. And she'd been waiting for a case exactly like this one. She just hadn't expected to be the plaintiff. The Magnolia Springs Police Department occupied a brick building on Oak Street. Built decades ago, renovated never. The processing desk was staffed by Sergeant Elena Park, a black woman with years on the force and eyes that had seen everything twice. She looked up when Reilly brought Nadia in. Her eyebrows rose. Reilly slid the paperwork across the desk. Parking violation, obstruction, threatening an officer. Park read slowly. Her eyes moved from the report to Nadia to Reilly, then back to the report. Vance, you measured the distance? Didn't need to. Clear violation. That's not how probable cause works. Reilly's neck reddened. You questioning my judgment, Elena? The room went quiet. Nadia stood between them, hands still cuffed, watching the power dynamics play out like a case study from her seminar. Park set down the paperwork. She gets a phone call. Vance, constitutional, right? She'll get her call when I say so. She gets it now. That's not optional. Reilly stormed toward the holding area. Park unlocked Nadia's handcuffs, rubbed her wrists where the metal had pressed, and led her to the phone on the wall. Make it count, Park said quietly. Nadia dialed from memory. The call connected after 2 rings. Dean Robertson's office. Sarah, it's Nadia. I need to speak with Patrick. A pause. Professor Ellison, are you... We've been trying to reach you. There's a video. I know. Put Patrick on. Another pause. Then Dean Patrick Robertson's voice filled the line, concern mixed with disbelief. Nadia, what the hell happened? Magnolia Springs. Sheriff Reilly. Yes, that's Sheriff Reilly. She glanced at Park. No, let it play out. Document everything. She hung up. By then, James Torres's live stream had hundreds of concurrent viewers. The number climbed as people shared the link. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit. The video showed everything. The measurement, the arrest, Reilly's words about you people, Nadia's calm, the scattered legal documents, comments flooded in. That's Professor Ellison from the Netflix documentary. She literally wrote the textbook on police misconduct litigation. Reilly just arrested the woman who trains judges. Oh, this is about to get good. Local news picked it up. Columbia law professor arrested in Magnolia Springs. The Chiron ran beneath shaky footage from James's phone. Reilly's Facebook page, public and unmoderated, began filling with comments. His friend count dropped. His review score plummeted. The mayor's office phone rang and rang. Hundreds of calls. The receptionist stopped answering. Let them go to voicemail. The messages were all variations of the same theme. What the hell is happening in your town? Town council member Sophia Rodriguez called the sheriff's department. Park answered. Is Nadia Ellison still in custody? Yes, ma'am. Sheriff's insisting on holding her. Get the mayor now. Mayor Elena Vargas arrived. She was in her 50s, 3rd term, former prosecutor. She'd known Reilly for years. She walked past the front desk, straight to Reilly's office, didn't knock. Release her. Reilly looked up from his computer. He'd been reading the comments. His face was stone. I'm not letting some outsider walk because she's got fancy credentials. She's not an outsider. She's a U.S. citizen with rights you're violating. I'm protecting this town from people who think rules don't apply to them. Vargas closed the door, leaned against it. Vance, I've known you a long time, so I'm going to say this once. You made a mistake. Own it. Fix it. Move on. I didn't make a mistake. You arrested a woman for parking 18 feet from a hydrant when the law says 15. I had public works measure. They confirmed it. You were wrong. I was doing my job. No, you were doing something else. She pulled out her phone, showed him the video. This is what it looks like, Vance. This is what everyone sees. And they're not seeing a sheriff protecting his town. They're seeing something uglier than that. Reilly stood. Get out of my office. Release her tonight, or I'll do it myself. You don't have that authority. Try me. They stood feet apart, years of professional courtesy evaporating in real time. Vargas left first, but she didn't leave the building. Nadia made another request. I'd like to post bail. Reilly appeared from his office. Bail is $5,000. The room went silent. $5,000 for a parking violation. For obstruction for words Reilly claimed were threatening, but nobody else heard that way. That's absurd, Park said. That's my decision. Nadia didn't argue. She'd expected this. The banks were closed. She couldn't access that amount of cash tonight. She could call someone, wire it, but that would take time. Reilly knew it. This was deliberate. He wanted her to spend the night, wanted her to feel powerless, wanted her to break. Then I'll need a vegetarian meal, Nadia said, and a mattress that accommodates my documented back condition. Reilly smiled, not warmth, cruelty. This isn't a hotel. He denied both requests. Nadia was taken to a holding cell, 6 by 8 feet, concrete bench, metal toilet, fluorescent light that hummed at a frequency designed to prevent sleep. Nadia sat on the bench, closed her eyes, and smiled because Reilly had just made his second mistake of the day. The first was arresting her. The second was making it personal. Night fell on Magnolia Springs. The video kept spreading. The viewer count passed millions. News outlets requested interviews. The ACLU issued a statement. The Southern Justice Coalition announced they were monitoring the situation. And in a holding cell in a small Georgia town, Professor Nadia Ellison planned her next move. She'd spent years teaching law students how to dismantle discriminatory systems, how to use data as a weapon, how to turn individual injustice into systemic reform. She'd written the playbook, published it, testified about it. Now she was going to demonstrate it. Reilly thought he'd won, thought the night in jail would humble her, teach her a lesson, remind her of her place. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Nadia had litigated against police departments in cities 50 times this size. She'd won settlements that changed policies, fired chiefs, reformed training programs. She didn't just teach constitutional law, she wielded it like a scalpel, precise, surgical, devastating. And she was just getting started. Morning came with fluorescent harshness. Shift change. Sergeant Tom Braddock arrived for his day rotation. Years on the force, retiring soon. He'd survived multiple sheriffs and seen the department at its best and worst. He logged into the computer, reviewed overnight custody logs. His face changed as he scrolled. Reilly arrived. Braddock met him at the door. Vance, what the hell did you do? My job. Something you forgot how to do. Braddock held up his phone. I have dozens of missed calls. State Attorney General's Office, ACLU, Georgia DOJ Civil Rights Division. He scrolled. The New York Times called Vance, the Times. Let them call. I didn't do anything wrong. You arrested a Columbia law professor for a parking violation that didn't exist on camera while she was measuring it. While she was showing you the ordinance. Braddock's voice climbed. What were you thinking? I was thinking she needed to learn respect. She's about to teach you something a lot more expensive than respect. They brought Nadia from the cell. She looked tired but composed. Her clothes pressed despite the circumstances. Her hair still neat. She moved like someone who'd spent worse nights and survived them. I need to make a call to my office. I have a class. Reilly laughed. Actually laughed. You're not making that class, Professor. Braddock stepped between them. Yes, she is. Because she's being released now. No charges. Bail rescinded. We'll have your car brought around. Nadia didn't move. I'd like to make that call first. Braddock gestured to the phone. Nadia dialed, put it on speaker without asking permission. Braddock nodded approval. Dean Robertson's office. Sarah, it's Nadia. I'll need Professor Chen to cover my constitutional law seminar today. Dean Patrick Robertson picked up. His voice cracked with relief and rage. Nadia, are you... The video. We've been trying to reach you since yesterday. I'm fine, but I need you to do something for me. Anything. The room went still. Reilly leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching Nadia with narrowed eyes. Contact the students in my seminar. Tell them their assignment is to research Magnolia Springs versus Thompson, 1987. She paused. Let that sink in. Then have them research every arrest Sheriff Vance Reilly has made in the past years. Robertson inhaled sharply. He understood immediately. Nadia, I want a full civil rights audit. Cross-reference with demographics, arrest outcomes, complaint histories. We're making this a class project. Real-world application. Reilly pushed off the wall. You can't do that. That's harassment. Nadia looked at him. Really? It's public records research. First Amendment protected activity. Would you like me to cite the relevant case law? Her finger hovered over the end call button. One more thing, Patrick. Have the students pay special attention to arrests in the upscale shopping district. I'm curious about the demographic breakdown. Consider it done. She hung up. The silence lasted seconds. You think you're clever, Reilly said. I don't think. I know. Nadia picked up her phone from the desk where Braddock had placed it, scrolled through her contacts. Now I need to make one more call. She dialed. It rang twice. Southern Justice Coalition, Michelle Rivera speaking. Michelle, it's Nadia. I need your litigation team. Michelle Rivera's voice went sharp. Professional. We're already mobilizing. The video's been viewed millions of times. The board met. We're ready. I need more than litigation. I need a federal investigation. Reilly's face went white. Title VI Compliance Review of Magnolia Springs Police Department. Pattern and practice investigation for discriminatory enforcement. And I need it filed before noon. Michelle didn't hesitate. You'll have it by 11. Reilly moved toward Nadia. Braddock blocked him, one hand raised. Stop. Reilly started. Nadia continued as if he hadn't spoken. The organization I'm calling has an annual litigation budget of millions. They've toppled police departments in cities 50 times this size. They have attorneys in many states, and they've been looking for a case exactly like this one. She ended the call, looked at Reilly. I want to be clear about something, Sheriff. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for constitutional treatment. Every person you arrest deserves what I'm requesting. You're trying to destroy me. No, Sheriff. Extortion is when someone demands money or action through threats. I'm simply exercising my constitutional right to petition for redress of grievances. Her voice never rose, never sharpened. Each word landed like a legal brief. You taught me that when you denied me food, medical accommodation, and basic dignity. You taught me exactly how far you'll go. She stepped closer. Reilly stepped back. Now I'm teaching you how far I'll go. Mayor Elena Vargas walked through the front door, saw Nadia, saw Reilly, read the room in one glance. Mayor, Nadia said, I need to speak with you because there's something you need to know about Magnolia Springs liability insurance policy. Vargas froze. What about it? Specifically, the civil rights violation exclusions added years ago. The ones that save you thousands annually in premiums. The ones that mean your insurance won't cover a single dollar of the lawsuit I'm about to file. Reilly grabbed the edge of a desk, his knuckles white. What are you talking about? Nadia smiled. Not warmth, knowledge. Your insurance policy is public record, Sheriff, filed with the State Insurance Commission, and I know where to look. She turned to Vargas, which means every dollar of the settlement or judgment will come from city funds, your budget, your reserves, your taxpayers. Vargas's jaw clenched. How much are we talking about, Professor Ellison? Compensatory damages, punitive damages, attorney fees. For my claim alone, I'd estimate hundreds of thousands. If we proceed to trial and establish intentional discrimination, if Sheriff Reilly has been doing this to other people, we're talking about a class action lawsuit. Multiple plaintiffs, multiple claims, damages multiplying with each proven case. She let that number hang in the air. 7 figures easily. Vargas looked at the budget documents the city attorney had brought. The town's annual budget was millions. Reserves were lower. They couldn't survive a judgment like that. They'd have to cut services, fire personnel, potentially declare bankruptcy, all because of one sheriff's bias. Nadia closed her tablet. But I'm not here to bankrupt Magnolia Springs. Reilly's head snapped up. Then what do you want? I want to change the system that made you possible. She opened her portfolio, removed a document, slid it across the table. These are my terms. The city attorney pulled the document closer and read aloud. Full public apology from Sheriff Reilly. Videotaped. Reilly's suspension pending independent investigation. Hiring of independent police auditor for years. Implementation of bias training. Body camera policy with all interactions recorded and immediately uploaded. Creation of community oversight board with subpoena power. Donation to Southern Justice Coalition over years. Reilly stood. "You're trying to destroy me." "Sit down," Vargas said. Reilly sat, his face red, his hands shaking. Nadia leaned forward. "No, Sheriff, I'm trying to correct you. Destruction would be easier. I could sue you personally, target your pension, your assets, your home." She let that sink in. "But that doesn't change systems. That just punishes one person. I want to change the system that allowed you to think what you did to me was acceptable." Rodriguez picked up the terms document. "These seem reasonable, Mayor, more than reasonable considering the exposure." The city attorney nodded. "Substantially less than litigation would cost. And if Professor Ellison follows through with a federal investigation, we're looking at years of oversight regardless. This way, we control the narrative." The insurance representative spoke again. "From a risk management perspective, I strongly advise accepting these terms." Vargas looked at Reilly. "Vance, you have a choice. Accept these terms, keep your pension, keep your freedom, or we go to trial and you lose everything." Reilly's voice came out hoarse. "You're letting her blackmail the department." "This isn't blackmail," the city attorney said. "Blackmail involves threats for personal gain. These are settlement terms in anticipation of legitimate civil rights litigation. This is how the law works." Nadia added quietly. "And, Sheriff, these terms aren't just about you. They're about the next person you stop, the next woman you arrest, the next black driver you pull over. I'm trying to make sure your mistakes don't become someone else's trauma." The room fell silent. The only sound was the hum of the ventilation system and the distant ringing of phones in the mayor's office. Journalists calling, activists calling, concerned citizens calling. Vargas picked up the terms document. "I'm calling a vote. All in favor of accepting Professor Ellison's terms." Rodriguez raised her hand. Then the others. "Motion carries." Vargas looked at Reilly. "Vance, you're suspended, effective immediately. Days, pending independent investigation." Reilly's face went slack. "Elena, you can't." "I can. I should have done it years ago. This ends now." She turned to Nadia. "We'll accept your terms with one modification. The financial contribution will be split over years. Our budget can't sustain more without cutting essential services." Nadia considered, nodded. "Acceptable, but the oversight board must have real teeth, subpoena power, public reporting, quarterly data releases." "Agreed." The city attorney began typing amendments into his laptop. The insurance representative confirmed the modified terms would resolve the immediate claim. Reilly sat frozen, the career he'd built crumbling in real time, but he was still sitting there, still collecting a pension, still had a future, more than he'd given Nadia when he slammed her against her car. The meeting ended. Nadia shook hands with Vargas, with Rodriguez, with the city attorney. She didn't offer her hand to Reilly. She walked out of City Hall into bright Georgia sunshine, pulled out her phone, sent a text to Dean Robertson. "Settlement reached. System changes implemented. Class resumes Monday." His response came immediately. "That's my colleague. That's my friend. That's my hero." Nadia smiled, started her car, checked the distance to the fire hydrant one more time. Still 18 feet. She'd been right all along, and she'd just changed an entire police department to prove it. These are the real stories that matter, the touching stories that remind us justice isn't given, it's fought for. City Hall steps, cameras from news stations, reporters from newspapers across Georgia. James Torres stood in front, his phone ready for another live stream. Sheriff Vance Reilly stepped to the microphone. He wore his uniform, full dress. His attorney had written every word he was about to say, every comma lawyered, every phrase sanitized. He unfolded the paper and read, "Yesterday afternoon, I made errors in judgment regarding the arrest of Professor Nadia Ellison. Upon review, I acknowledge measurement errors, escalation errors, and procedural oversights in how the situation was handled." The words came out flat, rehearsed. "Legal armor against liability." James called from the front row. "Say you were wrong about all of it." Reilly stopped, looked at his attorney. The attorney shook his head once. "Don't." Reilly looked at Nadia. She stood feet away, Arms crossed. She nodded once. Reilly folded the paper, went off script. I was wrong about the parking, about the arrest, about, his voice caught, about how I treated Professor Ellison. The first genuine moment, the first crack in the armor. Nadia approached the microphone after Reilly stepped away. She didn't touch it at first, just stood there. Let the moment settle. I don't accept apologies that are legally mandated. I accept changed behavior. Her voice carried across the steps. Strong, clear. Sheriff Reilly will have the opportunity to demonstrate that change. The entire Magnolia Springs Police Department will have that opportunity because this isn't just about one arrest. It's about a system that allowed it to happen. She stepped back, didn't take questions, didn't need to. The reforms would speak for themselves. The first month brought immediate changes. Body cameras ordered, full shift recording, immediate upload to cloud servers, policy written by a consultant, when to activate, how to store, who can access, public records, requests processed quickly. All officers retrained, hours of classroom instruction, bias recognition, de-escalation, Fourth Amendment basics that should have been memorized years ago. An outside firm handled it. No internal instructors, no letting officers train each other on the same mistakes. The complaint process was gutted and rebuilt. External review board, response requirement, no more complaints disappearing, no more investigations conducted by the accused officer's friends. Data collection began. Race, gender, age, offense, location, time, officer, outcome. Every stop, every citation, every arrest. The data went into a public dashboard, updated weekly. Months later saw structural changes. The Community Oversight Board was established. Members, civilians selected by lottery from applicant pool, city council representative, retired judge, mayoral appointee, subpoena power over department records, authority to compel testimony, quarterly public reports mandatory. An independent auditor was hired. He'd reformed other departments after their own reckonings. No patience for excuses. His first audit took weeks. His findings took pages. Officers showed concerning patterns in arrest demographics, some placed on administrative duty pending further review, not including Reilly. He was already suspended. Some officers were eventually terminated. Pattern violations, sustained complaints, evidence of discriminatory enforcement that couldn't be explained away. The union fought it, lost. The data was overwhelming. Transparency Hub launched. Real-time data, traffic stops, citations, arrests, sortable by location, time, officer, demographics, color-coded visualizations, red for disparities exceeding certain ratio, yellow for others, green for proportional enforcement. The first week was a sea of red. Downloadable datasets for public analysis. Nadia's law students downloaded them, ran their own audits, published findings on a dedicated website. Quarterly reports comparing Magnolia Springs to state and national benchmarks. A year later showed results. Racial disparity in arrests decreased significantly. Still work to do, still unacceptable, but movement in the right direction. Complaints filed increased, not because behavior worsened, because trust improved. People believed complaints would be heard, investigated, sustained when warranted. Complaints sustained increased. Real consequences, real accountability. Officers terminated, suspended, formally reprimanded. The thin blue line developed some cracks. Reilly completed bias training, returned to administrative duties, desk work, paperwork, no patrol, no arrests, no contact with the public. A last chance agreement signed in his attorney's office. One more sustained complaint, and he was done. He showed up every day, did the work, kept his head down. Months post-incident, Nadia visited unannounced. She found Reilly in his office, surrounded by files. He looked up, startled. "Professor Ellison, I didn't expect you. I wanted to see how the reforms were working from your perspective." Reilly gestured to the chair across from his desk. She sat. "I've been doing this job years. I thought I was good at it. You were good at enforcement. You were terrible at justice. There's a difference." Reilly nodded slowly, opened a drawer, pulled out a stack of files, pushed them across the desk. "Self-initiated review of my past arrests. Found cases where I think I was wrong. Not legally wrong, but wrong." Nadia picked up the top file, read a traffic stop. A black man arrested for failure to signal. Bail set high. The man missed days of work, lost his job. "What are you going to do about them?" Writing letters, apologies. Can't fix everything, but it's a start. Nadia set down the file. Sheriff, I didn't come here to destroy you. I came here because you destroyed yourself, and I decided whether you'd rebuild or rot. Reilly looked at her, really looked at her. You gave me a hell of a choice. I gave you the same choice you gave me. Comply with the law or face consequences. You just weren't used to being on that end of it. She stood, offered her hand. Reilly shook it. Keep doing the work, Sheriff. That's how you earn redemption, not through apologies. Through changed behavior, she left his office, walked through the station, nodded at Sergeant Park, now Deputy Chief Park, saw the body camera charging stations, the new transparency posters, the complaint forms available in English and Spanish. Small changes, systemic changes, the kind that last. A year later, Nadia returned to Magnolia Springs, not as a defendant, not as a plaintiff, as a keynote speaker. The Georgia Association of Police Chiefs held their annual conference. They invited Nadia to present criminal justice reform, a case study. Hundreds of attendees, police chiefs from surrounding counties, commanders, training directors, people with power to change things. Sheriff Vance Reilly sat in the second row, voluntary attendance. He didn't have to be there, but he was. Nadia stood at the podium, looked out at the sea of uniforms. Reform isn't about vengeance. It's about creating systems where my experience becomes impossible. She clicked through slides, data from Magnolia Springs, before and after, the disparities, the changes, the results. Magnolia Springs didn't change because one woman got arrested. It changed because one woman had resources to fight back. She paused. Let that reality settle. But what about the thousands who don't? The people arrested every day who can't afford attorneys, who don't know their rights, who don't have law degrees and professional networks. That's why systemic change matters. That's why body cameras matter. That's why oversight matters. She clicked to the final slide. Outcomes. Nearby towns adopted similar reforms. Georgia legislature considering statewide oversight board mandate. Nadia scheduled to testify. Her case study taught at universities nationwide. The video, millions of views. Similar audits sparked across the country. One arrest, one woman, one refusal to accept injustice as inevitable. Legacy doesn't come from silence. It comes from speaking truth to power. The applause lasted minutes. Reilly stood, then others. Nadia didn't smile. This wasn't about her. This was about the work. After the presentation, she drove back to Magnolia Springs. One last visit. James Torres's antique store thrived. A new sign in the window. Protected by justice. He'd never taken down the video. It was pinned on his social media. A reminder, a warning, a promise. Deputy Chief Elena Park ran the department now. First black woman to hold that position in Magnolia Springs history. She implemented monthly community forums, open dialogue, no questions off limits. Deputy Nakamura led the bias training program, developed curriculum used across counties, found his voice, found his purpose. Reilly remained on administrative duty, eligible for retirement soon. He'd take it, leave the job, leave the regrets, try to leave the person he'd been. Nadia stood outside City Hall one final time, looked at the steps where Reilly apologized, where the cameras gathered, where change began. Her phone buzzed, a text from a student. Professor, our latest audit of Magnolia Springs. Disparity down. Progress. She smiled, typed back, keep monitoring. Progress isn't permanent. Vigilance is. She got in her car, checked the fire hydrant distance one last time. Still 18 feet. Still legal. Still proof she'd been right from the beginning. But being right wasn't enough. She'd had to fight for it, document it, litigate it, reform it. And now it was your turn. Have you witnessed injustice that went unchallenged? Share your story in the comments below, not for sympathy, for solidarity, because every story of abuse unpunished is a blueprint for the next victim. If Nadia's story moved you, share this video. Tag someone who needs to see that resistance isn't futile, it's essential. Subscribe for more stories of everyday people who refuse to accept injustice as inevitable. Nadia had a law degree, resources, and platform. Most people don't. That's not a reason for despair. It's a reason to build systems where everyone has the protection Nadia had to fight for herself. What will you do with that knowledge?